And we're live. Hello and
Live.
welcome to the 48th episode of Game Theory Gang. I'm your host, Matty Allen, with ChrispyMan of HexFire.io and Brisology. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
Hello. Hey, Bruce. Maddie, does it bother you when I say right after you, and we're live? Does that bother
It's
you?
fine. No.
It's like branding, man. I get excited about that, and there's like 100 people in the chats that are all screaming the same thing when you say that.
I was assuming, yeah. Because I got my start, like, before I was a YouTuber, I would just talk to the TV when, Discourse Syndicate or somebody was saying something incorrect. I would just start yelling at the screen. So then I decided I should become a YouTuber.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Very good.
I'd always be shouting in the chat box. You're wrong. Bitcoin is a store of value.
It is. That's right. Store. Remember, it used to be a currency narrative, man.
It's been all kinds of things. And now look, the number of topics that we can go through tonight, I think is going to be really impressive. I think this is going to be a super informative show for anybody who has the luck of tuning in. So if you're watching, hit the like and subscribe button, leave a comment if you're watching on the replay, because this is going to be a good one. There's so much news happening. I think, so of course we're going to get to the title, which has to do with PulseChain being all the talk of the town on Twitter on an account called Coinfessions. And I think that that's going to lead us into a really productive discussion about what PulseChain really is for anybody who's forgotten or joined in the past year and a half, to really, figure out the basics all the way to the advanced. There's been so many hot takes recently. Johnny Chaos has put out hours of materials in the past week, and there's been so much stuff happening.
Has he been on fire or what? Is he literally like on
he's
fire?
Been on HEX Fire.
Well,
yeah,
so
fire.
Unfortunately, I think something Johnny shared, last night on stream was that he lost his mother this week, and so we're all thinking of him, and so everybody just
that's a good
remember
reminder.
life is short, and tell your mom that you love her, and let's all be there for Johnny.
Yeah. I'll add to that. So I have a good viewpoint on this, I think, right? My mother used to tell me this all the time. Now my parents are passed, right? And how did that come about? That came about because they were older, when they had me. I was the last of four, right? And my dad did go early, but my mom, she lived to about 78, which would have liked to see her around a lot longer than that. But I mean, but that was 10 years ago, over 10 years. And so one thing that's always stuck with us is as you get older, right, life doesn't change, right? Meaning this is what happens. Everybody has a point at the end, right? So it is part of life, and it is part of what you have to deal with. And so I definitely echo what you just said. Take the time now. Take the time now.
I was lucky enough to be able to call my mom today, wish her a happy Valentine's Day. So
awesome.
Nice.
Good job.
I got to be thankful for that.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, right? I mean, it's just those little types of things, that later on, I mean, because God willing, everyone, well, at least from parents' perspective, usually you'll say, God willing, you'll outlive your kids, right? Because nobody likes that, but it doesn't always happen that way. It goes both ways, So take the time you can to enjoy your family and friends and spend time with them.
And we're thankful for everybody who tunes in to the show and the community that we have here online that supports each other. Another thing that I said that I would do here, on Tuesday nights when we start the show is to remind people that you can get tickets for HexpoMiami.com. And that's going to be an opportunity to build your in real life relationships with other Hexicans. And so I'm hosting this this meetup here coming up May 18th to 20th. But I need you to buy tickets now because I want the merch to be as good as possible. And I've committed to not running a deficit on this thing. And so the money has to be there. And then I will order the awesome merch. And so I've got some more announcements that are going to be coming out surrounding that here as we go week by week. But for now, everybody go get your ticket at hexpomiami.com. And they're already selling out. I think I talked to somebody, I actually talked to somebody who said that they might buy 25. And I was like, what?
Scalper.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, that's a real business. I should get in that business, man, of scalping tickets for HEX conferences. Yeah.
And I was looking back through the pictures from the last event that I organized, and I was actually kind of blown away by how amazing it was. I forgot. I was so busy running it that I didn't. So you can go to hexphotos.com and see like, you know, what it looks like. I guess I'll show it on screen here real quick because I also committed to like basically the idea that the psychology of a vacation or a meetup is always going to be enhanced by knowing what the vibe's going to be before you get there and looking forward to that. And so, you know, whether it's just what people are going to wear or what they, you know, how they're going to feel when they check in at the beginning, I think it's all really good to show people pictures and videos and stuff. And so if you go to hex.photos, this is made by Pascal, the Hex photographer, and he's got it broken out by each day. But you can, you can see that on each day there are amazing moments that are captured. You know, these, and a lot of these have become really familiar faces throughout the Hex community. You could just see how people are enjoying themselves and getting comfortable and enjoying the community. So
that's always the best part too of going to these things is getting to meet everyone, getting to put faces to screen names, and you know, just getting to hang out with like actual people with similar interest.
Yeah,
dude, I agree. I mean, hats off to you, Maddie, for all the things that you have done. I mean, they're pretty awesome. But I concur, Bruce, right? When we went out to Vegas that first time, I may not have seen you directly. I don't remember. But you know, I just holed up in one of the bars, you know, grabbed the table, grabbed the cigar, and then started meeting people. People started coming over, meet and greet. Met half a dozen people that I still know today in HEX, you know.
Yeah.
And just connected.
That's pretty cool.
Dripping.
Yeah. Look at all those people. Wow.
What's up, Nate Steaks?
So, yeah. Okay. All right. So there's really a lot of news. There's big news.
They're coming after our stables.
Well, okay. So we're going to talk about that. It's been Gary Gensler of the SEC versus Senator Toomey and the rest of the world on stablecoins. Are they securities? And I'll be able to break down for you both sides of the argument. We also had an occurrence today where gas prices spiked up. The amount it costs to do transactions on the Ethereum blockchain spiked as high as 500, 600 GUI, causing transaction swaps, a simple decentralized exchange transaction, to cost over $100.
Mine was $150 to do a swap.
What were you swapping?
It was just like Ethereum for HEX. I just wanted to see how much it would cost, and it was like $150. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I put it on my Twitter.
There was a false rumor that this was related to the USDC FUD that was occurring. So apparently, there was a news outlet that had falsely reported. I mean, this is like a mainstream media outlet, had apparently, according to my sources on Twitter, had made a false claim that there was basically something called a Wells notice sent to Circle, which is the issuer of USDC, the major stablecoin. That's
or Paxos, right?
Well, no. They were saying that it was sent to Circle.
Okay.
And that would be highly unusual because Circle is way more regulated than Binance. So Binance is the one that caused the discussion to get started with their stablecoin that some people have alluded is not fully backed anymore. And so apparently I'm not really sure what the relationship was between Binance USD and Paxos, but apparently there was like an issuing.
Issues Binance coin. Paxos just uses Binance's name with Binance permission. So the Binance coin is all controlled by Paxos, and Binance has nothing to really do with it.
We're gonna do some laps around these topics because look, I just found out today that that CoinMarketCap got their suit dropped for improperly listing HEX. That happened this week.
I didn't hear about that.
I read the court filing, and so this is breaking news. This is like, I told you this episode is going to be really good and really informative. But all this stuff is, Binance owns CoinMarketCap. Binance is who is getting sued. Legal history was made whenever the CEO of Binance, CZ, got served on Twitter. A U.S. federal judge, for the first time in history, gave permission to serve somebody papers on Twitter because CZ is so elusive.
So he got served in the metaverse, huh?
Yeah, he got served in basically by a Twitter public thing. And when we were having the first HEX meetup, I remember that's around the time that they did it. It's called the Davalier Law Group. And they showed me a copy of it like when I was setting up for the first event. So that suit has been playing out all this time. And of course, like all this stuff coming out this week is really interesting because another player in the whole game is Kraken, who got in trouble for staking. Yeah. Basically, the argument against stables and against staking is the idea that the SEC is saying that there's basically a common pool, a centralized entity. You're sending your keys to them, and then they're making investments like doing short-term treasuries or doing anything they can to get yield, just even to fund their own operations. So when you look at like USDC or you look at Binance USD or anything, with their reserves, they could be not just sitting on the actual dollars, but they could be making these like really quote unquote safe investments on your behalf, which could make them be considered securities. Now, Senator Toomey today was interviewing Gary Gensler. I'm not sure if it was yesterday, but it was like an official thing. It looked like the Senate Finance Committee was doing it, basically calling old GG Gary Gensler, head of the SEC. They were calling him to testify on this whole stablecoins thing because people are freaking out that that anything the SEC does against Binance could be could screw up the rest of crypto basically. And so anyway, like Senator Toomey was basically saying it's a secondary activity if these stablecoin issuers are trying to pick up, these tiny little breadcrumbs. They're trying to pick up pennies in front of freight trains or whatever, right?
Here's a game theory question.
Yeah.
Is what Gensler is doing to Binance with this whole BUSD thing? Do you think maybe that could be retaliation for what Binance did to FTX and how it's like, hey, Binance literally stole all of Sam's money, then put him in prison and ruined a giant honeypot for a bunch of U.S. politicians.
Wow. So there was a public signaling that the CEO of Binance, CZ, did against Sam Bankman-Fried. It basically withdrew $100 million. And I mean, you see this in a lot of different Ponzi schemes. Even in the Madoff documentary that's on Netflix, they were saying that somebody had figured out that Madoff was insolvent and they were extracting hundreds of millions or billions of dollars out of it, knowing basically that it was
Gonna fail.
Yeah, that it was going to fail, and that basically it would keep going until that person put enough pressure there. So, and I mean that, that's like highly illegal too. And so I would hope that the US would be, not trying to screw up all stable coins. And I don't think they are. So we're going to also have the argument that like, that really stable coins are not, you don't have to like freak out and sell all your stable coins now. But yeah, but this idea that like, I think they should be going after him like within the law, not outside the law. And that's what Toomey was saying is like, Gensler, you can't just make stuff up. Like, and so they were basically arguing about like really what the law was. And Toomey was saying, this is not, first of all, part of what separates the Howey test from other tests of whether something is a security has to do with the Howey test only relates to investment contracts. And so, for example, the original case where Howey was selling Orange Grove shares, basically, that was considered an investment contract because of how it was like sharecrop sharing or something. It was like there was some detail there that made it an investment contract. But then in order to make sure that it was well defined, they created the 4 legs of the Howey test. And you have to meet all 4 in order to be considered a security under the Howey test, which again relates to investment contracts. But remember, the SEC can take anything that's not even an investment contract, and they can decide whether it falls into different tests for what a security is. So I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, like what another common test is. There's a couple other common tests that we know of. But basically that's,
for security?
that it's important to know. Yeah. Like the actual Securities and Exchange, basically the law that was created after Charles Ponzi perpetrated his scheme. And by the way, he had a company called the Securities and Exchange Corporation. So they literally stole the name of his. You can look it up. This is like documented stuff. But there's also a documentary on YouTube about Charles Ponzi, and it's I would say it's worth watching. But yeah, the idea is that under like the securities laws of 1933 and 1934, they outline about like 30 different examples of what a security is. And they basically name every single thing out there. So what's a good takeaway from this? Well, there's a lot of shit going down right now, like in the regulatory framework, in, the Senate Finance Committee versus the SEC. Like, thank God we have Senator Toomey and a couple others who are, standing up for at least having regulatory clarity in crypto. It's been too long. It's, the SEC has had since 2017 to be clear about what's a security and what's not. The incredible thing about HEX is that it literally doesn't fall under the 33 or 34 securities laws, and it doesn't meet any of the legs of the Howey test.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. When you think about like even a stable coin, which is there's no way you could expect profit from that. But remember, just expecting profit, that's a leg of the Howey test. It doesn't say what are all the things that could go into whether you have a security or not. Because with a stable coin, it's not an investment contract per se. And it's like, it's a question of like whose keys, like Hex, you hold your own keys. In most of these other things, like Kraken got in trouble for basically a form of staking, but where they're the ones running the validator, I think. And Charles Hoskinson weighed in on all that today in a live stream, that he's basically saying, Cardano not affected. He said it 14 times.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about it, and I really think PulseChain is going to be, I don't know, it feels like something really special, especially if all this doom and gloom legislature goes through. It seems like PulseChain is going to be really in a unique position, like, like even like our algorithmic stable coins that's going to be on there. It's like you are the one that makes those stable coins by providing the assets, and so therefore there's no like company that you're getting them from, so it kind of makes them definitely not a security, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we are going to get to all the PulseChain alpha for sure. I think still it's like notable to tie all these pieces together. Another thing we saw this week was it Kraken that listed? There were one or two centralized exchanges that listed Hex correctly, I think, at least.
Yeah, Kraken came up at 11, right?
So Hex is now listed correctly on Kraken, which is incredible. Also because Kraken's been getting in trouble for staking with the SEC. Now, what happened there was, and Jesse Powell, he's an OG Bitcoiner. He founded Kraken and still runs it. And he has been pretty good. It seems like Richard has said positive things about Kraken. But Jesse, he said basically that the reason he paid $30 million to the SEC to settle their allegations that he was running an unregistered security by allowing people to stake and to earn rewards from staking.
And he just didn't want to go to
prison. That just because it wasn't profitable enough for him to even like fight it. And that
was going to cost more than $30 million to fight it.
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like that's XRP, crazy. Man, they've probably spent.
That's true, right?
More than that, but and then also he has to worry about his other licenses still being in compliance, and all that. So.
Never allowed to offer staking ever again.
Correct. That was part of the agreement.
That's kind of crazy, though, right?
It is kind of crazy. Let me see. Now, I did figure out why the court documents say that CoinMarketCap got off the hook, at least in Arizona. In the federal court in Arizona, the lawsuit against CoinMarketCap from the Hex community, that was dismissed without prejudice or with prejudice. And what being dismissed with prejudice means is that you can't bring it back to that same court. Now, what you should find extremely interesting about this is the reason that the judge said that she was dismissing the case is that Binance did not have a big enough presence in Arizona, because it was a class action lawsuit and it was alleging that a certain person had suffered harm from having bought and sold Hex while Binance was suppressing, they were suppressing the price, basically lying on their website, misrepresenting information to this, to the world basically, but in particular people in the US. And it's kind of interesting that the judge found that, because
the judge said no one in Arizona was affected enough, or just
it was at Arizona federal court.
Yeah, but I mean, but the judge said like the people of Arizona.
Well, it
weren't
was
enough people.
the class action lawsuit was like on behalf of people in Arizona, and then they could have like broadened it, I guess, once they like won in that particular jurisdiction. And now they're not like probably excluded from other jurisdictions. You know, like I'm like I'm just somebody, you know, I'm just a regular guy reading the news over here, you know. And so I, you know, like don't base your whole legal strategy around like my spotty understanding of the law
Right.
or intuition or whatever. But so basically, but what you have to ask yourself when you're critical thinking about this, you know, this breaking story here, is remember a federal judge in the first place found it so compelling, the evidence that was provided about Binance and CoinMarketCap, like suppressing the price of HEX and, you know, doing that to other coins too, basically. You know, they didn't find that, but they found the evidence compelling enough to set up a literal precedent that you could serve somebody on Twitter. So remember, there were lots of really good parts to that, basically to that lawsuit that set it up in the right way. And so I wouldn't view this as kind of I really wouldn't view it as that bad of a thing. At first, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, that sucks. But really, it comes down to the fact that just kind of like procedurally, it didn't apply in that jurisdiction, according to this one judge. And basically, but according to a different judge in that jurisdiction, it had been a big enough deal to like get that far. And so the fact that the evidence was such that the case could even get that far, I think is pretty remarkable.
I think we need to do some digging into this judge that dismissed this and see if there's any ties and connections. We'll see where the money goes.
Conspiracy already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got a couple questions about like who the law firm was and all that, but like I said, they seem to be good people, because one of them came to the HEX meetup and you know, showed me what they were up to and everything, and seems like a good guy. So yeah, you know, this is something we can follow up on future episodes. I think people they want to be informed. They watch the show because they want to learn, and we're all learning together. I mean, if you go and look up the lawsuit between HEX and CoinMarketCap, it's going to teach you a lot about HEX, because they're making arguments about how HEX was treated unfairly and like gatekept, basically. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's tough. Those types of lawsuits are very tough to win, and they take a long time. And I think, you know, Johnny had talked about that in the beginning when he launched it. You know, restriction to trade in such things are difficult to prove, right? And so yes, we all get it. I mean, we know that the number, you know, that you're artificially at the same number all the time. At least if at least if they were trying to make it look like they were choosing something different, it would go up and down. You know, it wouldn't just be one number. But it's the same position all the time. So.
As a hardcore Hexagon, I will say it's a little hard to claim damages off of, you know, a bad market ranking. But with that said, I know I was just hoping that they would get slapped around by the law a little bit and just make them list it correctly. You know, I don't know.
Well, look, I mean, we saw this week 2 other major exchanges shift their position on HEX, and nobody's talking about this. It was Kraken and OKX, right? And if they're listing HEX properly, that's the first sign that they could be, you know, if they're listing the ranking of HEX's market cap correctly, that could be a sign that maybe they'll list HEX.
Yeah.
If they list HEX, here's what happens. HEX now meets the criteria of the CoinMarketCap methodology. They actually publish a methodology for how you get to move beyond position 500 or 200. There's criteria to be in the top 2000 and to be in the top 200.
Oh, is
That's
there?
why Hex is always stuck at like 201 to 203, is because it's not listed on centralized exchanges. Now, if you
So
look
it's like the
from a
number
legal-
one black sheep coin.
yeah, and you know, from a legal perspective, I think CoinMarketCap kind of set themselves up to like pretend like they were just gatekeeping scams. But that's not, they don't advertise their methodology. They don't say this is our shopping list, as
Yeah.
Johnny would famously say.
Then
And
people could game it, right?
and it is their shopping list, and it is market kind of in a way market manipulation, I would say. So yeah, so there's a lot of angles to it, and I've like, that's part of the reason I started streaming, other than the fact, well, it's why I created a new Twitter account that was dedicated to Hex, was because I was so shocked that CoinMarketCap was gatekeeping Hex. And so yeah, it's been an issue that's I think been around since the beginning of the Hex community, and that's why it's so important, I thought, today for us to kind of update people on that there are major pieces that are moving now, and you know, listing on a centralized exchange, that's, you know, that's got pros and cons to it. But just getting the recognition that we deserve, I think, is still something that's, I think it's still in the cards, given these two exchanges. Somebody has to go and look up and see if they're on the list that CoinMarketCap uses as a part of their methodology. There was like a consortium of ones that follow certain data standards about their volume and to cancel out wash trading and stuff. And then, you know,
Seems like
and
there
that,
could be a shift in the sentimentals of Hex in the overall market
yeah, I mean, well, just that,
in a positive way.
yeah, I mean, just that it's now been around long enough that it might be reconsidered as not a scam by centralized exchanges.
You know, Richard really, really kind of hurt the egos of a lot of people when he first named it Bitcoin Hex, because they're just like, you're just, you know, you're making a copycat, basically, is what they're thinking, you know, a cash grab. And so I think that's where a lot of the initial criticisms came from on why they, you know, no one should like it. It's just like it's a Bitcoin cash grab, and then, you know, eventually he took off the Bitcoin part of Hex.
I don't know that I would have gotten into Hex if it didn't have the Bitcoin name in front of it at the beginning. That's kind of part of how I trusted it in a way, or like trusted to look into it.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, for me, I was already interested in CFD, you know, the fluid token at the time, so I probably would have gone in regardless. But yeah, I mean, I totally missed that. Other than Richard having brought it up, I totally missed there was any uproar about it being Bitcoin Hex. I thought that the big thing about moving to the more simple branding of Hex was good, because that was kind of like the plan to get the website, and it corresponded with getting the website and everything else. So, you know, so I don't even remember that uproar, but yeah, I'm sure some people thought that.
Yeah. So let's see. So all these pieces are moving around this week. We found out that Kraken had to shut down its staking, and people misinterpreted the staking news as the SEC cracking down on all forms of staking, but it seems like the SEC had specified that it was centralized custodial staking that they were after.
And wasn't it Brian Armstrong from Coinbase came out and said they were going to fight it, and they were not going to give up staking? So this is good. This is going to turn into a legal battle that'll last another cycle. Probably won't hear about an end of this until after 2027, you know.
Well, and Coinbase having their own Ethereum staking is, I think, part of the contention Charles Hoskinson was alluding to, because the way that Ethereum has their staking set up could, in some cases, if you're not running your own validator, could be considered a problem, could be considered a investment pool, so to speak.
I was also wondering if, you know, the staking that Coinbase and Kraken and others were offering, I mean, it was such a higher percentage over a traditional savings account at a traditional bank.
Mhm.
I'm now kind of like wondering if this is a death throw of the legacy financial system. Hey, quit offering better products than us.
Yeah, it's possible too. I mean, my view on it, how I took it is this: they don't want more people getting hurt. So I'm going to let's assume good things, right?
Yeah.
The SEC is looking after people, and they screwed up, okay, with FTX and some of this other stuff, and they don't want to see more people get hurt by companies promising this. And this is one of the things they said about Kraken, I think, by promising you're going to get yield on something, and then in the background saying, hey, in the terms, if we go out of business, you lose all your money, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to avoid that situation. That's how I took it, but I don't discount Briz. Hey, real life is, yeah, maybe there's some motives, right, to shut it down.
Awesome. And yeah, so did I say why the Gwei had spiked? Oh, I said
No.
basically that was the lead in, was that people thought that it was the stablecoin USDC FUD that that was causing the Gwei to spike, but really what was happening is that there was some sort of NFT airdrop situation.
Is that what happened? NFT?
Something called Blur.
I've been
Was
hearing about that.
attributed with being the culprit for the spiking gas fees, which would make sense even more than just USDC FUD. And so you could see how people would get those confused. And so that, and I want to encourage everybody to be extra careful, because there are new scams going around, new dusting attacks. And so the way that a dusting attack works is like, if you can think of it that there's something in your wallet you want to get rid of because it like you don't like stuff showing up if it's got a bunch of zeros in front of it, or maybe like a weird NFT with like a naughty word in it or something appears in your wallet, and you tell yourself like, oh, I'll just like, I'll send it to a burn address, or I'll just get rid of it somehow, basically. And some people, by trying to get rid of it, they can hack themselves. Basically, they can open themselves up to a hack. And so the latest one that I heard of is people are getting, because these Trump NFTs have spiked in value, people have been getting fake airdropped a Trump NFT trading card, and then when they try to go do something with it, then they can get hacked. And so please, everybody, be careful whether you think that you got an airdrop. You always want to be careful.
So here's something I think is pretty important. I was reading about Kevin Rose, who's a really big in the tech field. Very very technical guy during the tech TV era in Silicon Valley. He got all his NFTs stolen on, I think, OpenSea. And so here's what happened. And basically someone sent him a bad NFT, and when he went and just looked at it, it injected like something into the browser, and it opened up a transaction for him to sign in MetaMask. And the thing about OpenSea is that if you want to do any kind of like messing around with your own NFTs, you have to sign a message every 24 hours. So there's just a lot of signing messages on MetaMask or on OpenSea that you're just constantly doing. And so he looked at a malicious NFT, it opened up MetaMask, and it just said sign this transaction, and he was just so used to it, he signed it, and that transaction sent out the NFT and every other NFT in his wallet. So
Yes.
so my advice to everyone is that if anything opens up, in your MetaMask that you weren't trying to do something, always reject it. Unless you're like going in there and signing in for the very first time and then it pops up, like that's okay. But if you look at an NFT and all of a sudden it pops up and says sign this message, be extremely skeptical and just reject everything that you just have any questions about.
Yeah,
I
if
think
you have millions of dollars, I don't use that wallet so frequently. Spread out into separate wallets, and that's one way. And then read. I mean, if you have millions of dollars of assets, you need to be learning how to read the zeros and ones that pop up in MetaMask.
Yeah, I think the point that Bridger's making is that we're humans, right? And lots of times people, most of us are human anyways. So lots of times you get used to seeing the same stuff over and over again.
Yes.
It's just like because somebody comes up with a new website with swap at the end doesn't mean it's safe.
Yes.
Right.
Just because it looks exactly like Uniswap, well, might not look exactly like, close enough. They're not all equal, but I think that people tend to get looser and looser over time because pain in the ass, right? But you taking those few minutes to just safeguard things is like the way you stop, bad things from happening. And then the other thing, Maddie, from what you were just saying, I think there's a good reminder. You old school guys, right? When you are ready to do something with a token or a coin, you move it to a new address and you do it in the new address, right? That includes selling it, swapping it, whatever it is you're doing, right? And so what does that look like? Yes, I understand what I'm saying because it's troublesome. But what it looks like is you're getting ready to end a stake and you make a new wallet address. If you're going to restake, maybe you put it in that new wallet address to restake. If you're going to swap it, you send it there. You're doing the permissions there, and in some cases, you never come back to that address ever again. Right?
It's a security versus convenience, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah, that's a great strategy to minimize risk. It doesn't take the risk away completely, but it minimizes it to be using separate addresses. And of course, this is something that that Time Pays Me is trying to solve, and that's the smart contract that I'm developing for basically people to be able to have a smart contract that you hold yourself, and basically you have to wait a week to do anything in it, and by waiting a week, you'll get a chance to know if somebody's trying to have a withdrawal request that you didn't approve. And so even if somebody can hack the first layer of your security, then they can't remain in control of your vault if you basically use a second seed phrase that you set up ahead of time. So that won't necessarily work with NFTs. And I saw somebody in the chat saying that it seems like it would be pretty easy to like create a feature to turn off receiving random deposits and free airdrops. You would think that, yeah. It is a little bit more complicated. The way that MetaMask deals with it is that they have a whitelist of token detection, and then you basically they have it turned off to where you can't really see what's there. People go on Etherscan and see what's really there, and then they start interacting with malicious things. And so of course, an RH wallet might solve some of these things. There are other wallets out there that are trying to solve it, and the more solutions we can have, the better. Because it's it's not okay to like lose your crypto to a hacker. That sucks.
I think when it asks you to sign a message, it needs to have like something in plain English that just says, "Hey, you're giving this wallet the ability to drain your wallet. Are you okay with this?" And because a lot of times you just see all that metadata, and you're just like, I don't know what that means, but I've done this so many times before. Okay, click.
Well, to put it a different way, the solution that I have, because somebody's asking, is basically it's like having a second signer that you don't need, but could come in and do something. So it's like having a multi-sig, but basically you don't give the rights away right away to the second signer. And
It's
so
like a
basically,
time-locked multi-sig.
yeah, it's just like, if you want to move coins, send them, then you need to request it a week ahead of time, and you put the request into the blockchain. And then if a hacker does that, you'll be able to see, and then you'll be able to steal back control of the vault using basically the second seed phrase that you set up at the beginning with a public address that can come in and save the day. And so it's basically, it's just a smart contract with extra permissions on it, and the permissions are written in a way that the blockchain can understand. And that's the part of the user interface that we're designing now. We got it in private testnet to the point where the blockchain code's written, we've got the port, we got the box to enter the recovery address, and then we need to create a button like to basically say like, oh, I think I've been hacked, like now I need to activate this part of the blockchain code that's gonna
Reminds me of a quote.
steal back control.
Where you go? What do we say to the god of death? Not today.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. And so like to demonstrate it, I'm going to create a new wallet and then set up a second seed phrase with it. I'm going to put $10,000 in it, and then I'm going to read off the seed words. And so you can load the seed words into your own device, and you can try to move the funds, and then I'll come in with the recovery address and not let you steal the funds. So it's like a bug bounty audit. That's not the only audit we're going to do, but it's just a more fun one.
Yeah, I like the idea of having a button that says "Not today." Click.
Yeah.
Rejected.
Not this time. Click.
And now
I need a centralized helper that pushes the button for you. That's what we need, right?
You wouldn't have to believe that you're compromised to get notified, because if you did not initiate the withdraw, so let's say you want to send it to like a new address, well, now the hacker would have to log in using your seed words or using your private key that they've stolen from you. They'd have to enter that into their computer, and then they'd have to request to move the funds, and then you would be able to be notified right away, because it's something that has to happen on the blockchain. So you can set up alerts even for yourself right now on etherscan.io. You can create an account there, and you can put in a public address, and you can create a separate email account like I did, like a Proton Mail on my phone. And I changed my phone settings, so every single email that comes into that one email address that I only used with Etherscan notifications, so it pops up on my phone every time money comes in or out of a certain crypto address. I think it's my donation address that I keep the closest eye on. And basically, so when I'm doing that, if I'm pressing the button to do the transaction, I know it's me. If I saw that money was going out of there, and I wasn't doing the transaction at that moment, then I would think to myself, oh no, it's too late. I've already been hacked. But with Time Pays Me, I would see the notification, and then I would have a whole week to go in and say, actually, I'm taking back control of this vault with this second private key, basically. So yeah, it's gonna like, and look, I'm not aware that anybody else has made a product like this, but I know that lots of different solutions are being tried. There are some wallets that like simulate transactions and that kind of stuff. So yes, so there's
And the only thing I would add to that is that reading Trade Mode James' question here was that maybe he thinks that if they have one seed phrase, maybe they have your other backup seed phrase. And with that, you just got to make sure that they're completely separate and not compromisable together.
And there's only one that you're really clicking, there's only one that's a hot wallet usually anyway. And so like, it's not, sure, it could still be the case that they've got a keylogger, but if you use a hardware wallet, then you're good. A hardware wallet isn't going to save you if you accidentally approve a transaction that you didn't read the code to. But Time Pays Me would save you from that. Basically, there are ways if you did not use a hardware wallet that Time Pays Me could still get hacked. If somebody called you up on the phone and they said, made up some great story for you to be able to tell them all your seed words. And then they were asking, oh, tell me the second set of seed words too. Like they would have to know a lot about Time Pays Me to be able to do that. They would be more likely to miss the fact that there's a second set, or they would just be targeting people who have less security. And so, yeah, that's the idea, is that, yeah, you can't get both of your seeds hacked, but if you just get one, and you would normally get one by just clicking on stuff and approving stuff that you don't understand. And then you just have to make sure that you're not doing that on both wallets at the same time, and you might be good.
So I got a question. If you use, okay, never mind. I think you just, because you send the funds to a smart contract that's locked up. Because I was just wondering if you just took the seed phrase and just uploaded it into another, just random wallet, wouldn't that be right there available to send out? But it
The
gets
question
locked
is,
up in another smart contract, right?
no, like the funds are movable. Basically, like you don't ever have to use the second recovery address if you don't get hacked. But whether you do get hacked or not, I think it's still going to ask you, like, where do you want to send the funds if you have permission to send them.
So I'm just wondering
after you've waited the time.
If I load up the words into another MetaMask wallet and I try to send them out, there's going to be a delay, a locked time.
Yeah,
delay.
because it's not locked at the local software level; it's locked on the blockchain.
Okay, that's
a smart contract that gives you the rules to say, here's how long you have to wait, and here's what the permissions are in terms of like this one public address that set it up. That's the primary vault address, and then there's the recovery address that's separate from that has different rules about what it's allowed to do. So yeah, Brisology is my hero, says Yellowtail.
He's my hero too.
What's up, Yellowtail? Yellowtail's an old coworker of mine.
Oh, nice.
Yep, I got him into HEX.
Well done.
Very nice.
He was skeptical of
Casey the Hexobi
at first.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, I don't know, man. Looks like a scam.
Well, it did look like a scam.
And then I just kept telling him about it, and he was like, I don't know, maybe I should buy Zilliqa. But I'm like, come on, don't be dumb, buy HEX.
We all have that experience, man. You're talking to somebody about crypto and they're all excited. You're all excited, and you're like, you should look at this, and they say, yeah, sheep.
What do you think of this one?
You think this is great, right? I don't know. You didn't listen to anything I just said.
I heard a guy on YouTube talk about this one.
Doge is on the moon. It's going.
But we're glad to have Yellowtail as a HEX again.
Yes, we are.
We're not actors. Casey, the Hexakin, is asking, does the initiation request show on the blockchain? Yes, it does. It has to. And could traders use the tool to anticipate someone trading? I don't think that would be as likely, because remember, there's a drip function that's attached automatically. And so if somebody did not take their weekly drip and they let it build up for like 30 years, then you probably wouldn't anticipate that person like coming on the scene and selling it all right away. I mean, you can always spook the market in one way or another, I guess. But I just would see that as less likely, because even if you're a whale, you might be clearing what's dripped. There's not really a security advantage to that. I mean, there might be. It gets really deep into the game theory if there would be a security advantage to that. But I think that from a trading perspective, I think it would make sense if you had millions of dollars of ETH and you were time locking it and time pays me. You could take your drip and you could send it to a centralized exchange, and then people aren't able to track it. People on chain are not able to track it along with the rest of your funds. And so, yeah, these are all great questions. Onboarding people into HEX is rough. Still trying though. There you go. Yeah, let Brisology be your inspiration, because he is literally his friend's hero.
It's always rough in the bear market. It's always rough in the bear market.
Yeah. Now, let's see. So we definitely we have plenty of PulseChain stuff that we can cover, but it also looks like ChrispyMan has some data to share with us.
A little less data, more like idea and format.
Oh, cool.
If you want to see it, it's a 6-minute clip, I think. We have.
Oh, there's not copyrighted music, is there?
Nope, this is public domain, but you turn the sound down, or I can turn it down. I don't know if I have control of it. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, but it's public domain, so I have it licensed under the chat. Hey, so for people who are onboarding and whatnot, what we're seeing here is at first I broke the internet with this, right? And
is this why gas fees are so high?
Yeah. Well, I broke it. I broke it because I used 150% of my CPU, so I don't want to burn people's phones up. But I'm kind of progressing what we can do with some of the charts and the data. So this is probably a bit much, but what was fun about this is I built it for a background for a video, and starting to fool around with the idea of maybe using some of the data that we have for TikTok and whatnot, or we're using some of the data to create some of the shorts that I might want to go out with. So it might be useful for onboarding and whatnot. So I'd like people to see the stuff, and if they have ideas, to ask back about it. So what's happening on the screen is we have the HEX data for daily, right? And so all this is doing is just, I set it up at a certain speed, and you can see at the bottom it's going day by day. Because there's a little bit of lag time with video and whatnot. Looks like it might be skipping days, but it's really not. And what it's doing is it's drawing the different charts up there for us. The first one that's there is the volatility, 28-day volatility with HEX. And I'm going to get a chance, hopefully, to hook up with Axis here in a week or so, and we're going to do a real deep dive, and I'm going to learn some stuff because that guy is incredible with this stuff. But it's pretty exciting because you can begin to pick out, based on some of these indicators, when good times would have been to accumulate, at least from the past, right? Then, of course, the TShare rate over on the right, you can see that just climbing, and with a little bit of trend, the payout on the bottom left, and then both the stakers and holders to the bottom right. And seeing as stakers are still relatively low, we haven't seen the big jump yet, so that curve will jump here in a moment or two. Yeah, so looking for feedback from people on usefulness, these types of things for onboarding, that type of thing.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love seeing the data animated in all these different ways. Is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I played with it just for that reason. I don't know that, of course, on TradingView, right, you guys have probably clicked the button before when somebody makes a prediction, right? And you can click the button like 2 weeks later and see what happened. and it progresses. Have you guys seen that before?
No.
Okay, so if you go look at it where somebody makes a call and they're like, Hex is going to double in the next 2 weeks, and they draw their fractals and all this other stuff. If they set it up correctly, when you come back later, there's a little play button, and you hit the play button and you'll see what really happened. And you can say, oh, this guy was obviously right on, or, you know, totally lost. So I think it's useful to a certain extent. You know, it's more eye candy, I think, you know, for being able to see things. Now, for onboarding, that's a different thing. Like, so if I was trying to make a decision right at the moment, I don't need to look at 3 years of history, right? Necessarily, maybe because I want to learn some stuff. But for onboarding and trying to discuss with somebody, I could definitely see, and this happened a little bit today, Maddie, on that other stream when I was on with Furu, because then you can do a voiceover of specific events and whatnot on a timeline. And as the timeline progresses, you know, you'd be talking to your audience and go, hey, da 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 da, you know, and look
Yeah,
what happened. Look what happened.
this is good for, like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Confusing, like, brand new people, and you can just be like, oh yeah, see the
It's really,
yellow and the blue line, that's the
yeah,
Ukraine factor. And when you bring up this chart over here, you got the
yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, listen, there is a point where there's too much information. You're right. Like I don't argue the point, Briz. You're right
you
about
see how
that.
this pink line crosses over the orange line.
Yeah.
Trust me, that's good.
Yeah. Well, you know, and here's the thing is, and not to not defending the, you know, confusion's okay. But when you start getting into current modern finance and data and stuff, those dashboards and the things people work on, they are like that. You know, they're like 10 times more populated and with information. But yeah. So that's all I wanted to show on this, Maddie. This one I canned up as a 6-minute video, so that it can be used or replayed or whatever for something. So if somebody has a need for something like that, just reach out to me. I did talk with Furu about doing something similar as kind of a backdrop, right, for some of the things that I want to do with maybe shorts.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's awesome. And I liked, I liked the part that I caught today of your stream with Furu Finance. That was great, ChrispyMan.
Yeah, that was totally unplanned. We just ended up.
You guys streamed
Nice.
for 3 hours, huh?
He had a lot of questions. Yeah, he had a lot of questions. It was good though. It was good. We had fun, you know, and he's definitely got a whole different take on things than I do, and I think our diversity makes us stronger on stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I won't point out how I think I'm different from him, but let's start with age, right? So, we all have different perspectives.
It takes all kinds.
No, it truly does, right? So yeah, I'm minded of that.
Well, I know people really want to find out about what the deal is with all this PulseChain stuff, and I changed the thumbnail here. At first, I was gonna just talk about PulseChain in general, and try to get people up to speed on some of the changes that we've noted. It's seemed a bit fragmented. That basically just all the updates over the past year and a half, and so maybe we can run through some of the changes. But I also wanted to highlight that PulseChain was featured in a Coinfession today. And Coinfessions is a combination of the word confession and coin. And it is an account that I follow just to see basically how people are getting wrecked. Because some of them are pretty good, probably going to be pretty good advertisements to add to my thread for Time Pays Me, for people not getting hacked anymore, for one. And on the other side of things, it also tells me about like what people's emotions are about crypto, and that it's a good indicator of sentiment. But it also relates to my goal of HEX therapy, to have people try to experience crypto in a more mentally healthy way than
But you also have to ask yourself,
degenerate trading.
are these real? Are these guys just LARPing? Are they
I
trying?
found one that is probably completely made up. The Coinfessions one, I can't say if it's made up, but they do have a pretty legit submission process. For example, like with other, if you interact with a journalist, sometimes they'll let you do like a drop of information anonymously, but then you have like a secret key to prove that you're the one who gave it to them and that sort of thing.
But like,
So they have a system like that set up. So basically, Trevon, he said that that was his Coinfession, that he's the one who submitted it, which he'd totally be one to like make something like that up. But he could prove it if he just showed his key. So if he doesn't want to be like the Craig Wright of Coinfessions, he can just prove that he's the one that created that Coinfession.
Sure, but like me, I'm not a very big fan of Zen, right? So what's stopping me from just making up a total BS lie and smearing that particular coin all over Coinfession and pretending like, oh, I got really hurt by it when I really didn't?
Trick question. You could tell the truth and that would smear the coin.
Oh, ouch.
What was the Coinfession that you saw that brought this up?
Let me share it here. Because as I said, it at first glance, it's, I don't want to make light of this. I don't want to make light of this particular one. I think that some of them are pretty outrageous, but this one can still be outrageous, but in a different way. So I do have empathy for people who, well, I don't know. Do I have, I think investors should be protected, but I think that PulseChain was a sacrifice, and sacrifice is not an investment. And I don't think that somebody could have sacrificed 5 figures and not known that it was not a sacrifice. So here it says, not only, this is the Coinfession, not only did I sacrifice multiple 6 figures for PulseChain, but got my group of friends in as well. 1.5 years later, it's vaporware, and none of my friends will speak to me anymore. Many have been my boys for over a decade. 2 of them have threatened to sue me. This is what being wrecked in crypto and IRL looks like.
Come on. This feels like a LARP.
Yeah, this one, it does seem made up. I think the, just when we're dealing with the issue publicly, I think it is important to just really call it like we see it. I was gonna go the way of like, oh, we should give people the benefit of the doubt, but in this situation, I think that it's a really strong argument to say that nobody sacrificed 6 figures and knew that it was a sacrifice. Like literally, they said right there, they used the word sacrifice. So it does seem made up. It does seem like a lie. It seems like people are changing what they expected after the fact, and that's not okay.
And it says like my friends won't speak to me anymore. It's like what, none of them take personal accountability for the money they sent in, and then it says that 2 of them have threatened to sue me. It's like, what are they going to sue you for telling you about a sacrifice and then you sending your own money in? Unless these are the friends where they're like, here's my money, just do it for me. And then maybe that I could see, but you shouldn't be doing that, because people, if you're not a financial advisor, you shouldn't be investing other people's money,
right? And yeah, there are no legal protections for people who follow their friends' advice, right? So
yeah.
And the whole point of a sacrifice, remember, is like, it was spelled out pretty clearly. It'd be the same as if you took a big pile of money, you left it on the subway with a big sign that said free. The money's gone, and somebody could still come along and say like, everybody we observed who left money underneath this sign that says free on the subway. Like everybody who did that gets an airdrop of this new coin that I made up, Matty coin, right? So that's how free speech works. And that's so it to say that it's vaporware, it is misleading because there was no where promised in relation to the sacrifice. People were competing for points that are designed to have no value.
And with that said, it's not vaporware because you can actually use the PulseChain right now. You can go trade on PulseX right now. It's the test net, but it's there. You can use it. You can experience it. It's shown that it's being built. It's just in the finalized testing right now. So it's like it's right there. You can see it. You just need it. Richard just needs to hit that switch to bring it live. That's really all that I feel kind of needs to happen after everything gets synced up.
Yeah.
19 million penalty on good accounting.
And to close out this, it's already gotten 326,000 views. So people love the topic of PulseChain. They love it or they hate it, but they're definitely paying attention. That's for sure.
Breaking news: payout per T-share tomorrow, 7.24.
Yeah.
Wow. What's going on there, ChrispyMan?
I just saw that flash. So we have, at least we're registering a 19.6 million hex penalty. So while you guys are talking, I'll go dig into it and see where it came from. It could be a good accounting penalty, but I don't know why. I wasn't aware of one.
Good accounting 55 minutes ago, 300 million hex penalty, 19.1 million.
Yeah, it just seems odd, Brisbane, because that's something that's pretty big.
Is that the big one that everybody's worried about? That's not bleeding. That wouldn't be bleeding out yet. Maybe something started bleeding today.
Yeah, it's quite possible. It is the 14th. There it is. There's a transaction link. For fun, you want to do this on screen or?
Sure, or we can answer questions until you get a read for what, or if you want to show like your process for getting a read on it.
Yeah, it'll be very similar to what you've done in the past. So
hit the like and subscribe button if you appreciate all this breaking news we're bringing you tonight. So many different areas.
So I may have to go to a couple of different places. Let me share the screen.
What a nice little reward we get for being stakers.
Yeah, dude. I'm expecting, like a lot of other people, we're going to see a tremendous amount of this in the future. And it won't necessarily be negative for the people who are going to do it. We're going to have to wait and see about that part. But
can you spell that out for people who maybe aren't as familiar with what that would look like?
Yeah, sure. And so we know, so penalties in general, we're trained like to think penalty bad, right? Penalty bad. But we start looking at much higher dollar values in tokens. I'll give you a snapshot. If you're a guy that figures $1 million is enough for you for the rest of your life, and you can emergency end stake for $1 million, are you really going to be able to stand up to the test of time and hold it? And that's what it comes down to. So there's some opportunities, and it might not be bad for that person, to do that. Yes, they would be losing, opportunity costs, but. All right, so we're looking at this transaction. Can you guys see this on the screen? Okay.
Got it.
All right, so I think
zoom in just a little bit.
I think most people understand things like transaction hash and
perfect.
How long ago this was a block. All right, so whoever owns looking to hex.eth is the
Gerardo, right?
Yeah, so that's the person who put this through. And it is showing, you know, it shows 9.5 million, but that's because only half goes to the OA, and this is the OA address, the CO3. So the penalty when you read it this way is actually double, right? Half of it
Wait,
goes
so
to the
look
OA.
into hex.eth suffered a giant penalty today?
No, that's not what we're saying. They're the
Oh.
ones that sent the transaction. So
He
let's
good
go.
accounted.
Yeah, so let's go see what did they good account. So I went down to the info section down here, which shows us the good accounting function, right? But it's in binary, so hard to read. So I'm going to decode the input, and oh, it changes to something else. So this is an OA, not an OA. This is Godwill stake. This is a Godwill stake, and you guys may not have seen it. I guess I didn't realize it would be that much of a penalty. But here is the parameter, stake
I have a
ID
confession.
parameter.
A
I knew it.
Coinfession?
I knew it was bleeding out severely, and I didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't want anybody to get account it.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, and is this the one from January?
Yeah, it was bleeding out like 1 million hex a day. So that would
Someone
make
put in
sense.
chat 33 days late.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, hey, thank you, Godwill. And I mean that sincerely.
Yeah.
All right. So you can see that little bit there. So let's go. Let me switch over to Hexfire real quick.
Can we break
No.
down for people what because there's really complex game theory on like even interpreting whether this is a good or bad thing for people or for the individual at hand or any of that. But this is, I mean, this is breaking news. The largest whale in hex other than the OA, I guess, is the God whale, and the God whale, it seems, had let something start bleeding for about the past 2 or 3 weeks.
I hope he's all right.
Well, I wondered that myself, and I looked on the blockchain and saw that address hadn't processed any transactions in about a month since it had done this giant hex stake. It had restaked something that came out, and so we do worry, you know, for the God whale's well-being, of course, for sure. And I knew with 100% certainty that at some point somebody would figure it out and would good account it. But there's an entire debate that we could have about whether good accounting it would be good or bad for.
Is freeing up the TShares worth not getting the bleed out of the hex? Right? Because when you good account it, it takes those TShares. So when it was bleeding out, it was actually eating up a lot of inflation as well, too.
Well, that's why our payout per T-share, I think, was so high. Or is that is that incorrectly interpreted?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, what it would be doing is hurting us, not helping us. So I'm going to look at all the stakes that had been done, and I'm going to do. So I'm on Hexfire, so I'm just going to do a quick sort, and I'm going to sort by stake expected end when it was supposed to end, and I'm going to say, show me the ones that have not ended, because this would have been good accounted. So the stake I think we're talking about is this stake here, right?
How many hacks is it for? It's kind of hard to see the screen.
Yeah. Always good working with you, Maddie, on this stuff, because you
300 million.
bring that stuff up.
Okay.
So it's 300 million, but you know, this is not a short stake. It's a 1,000-day stake, and it was before big payday. So the estimated total payout was 443 million, right? And yeah. Now I have to go look. The GA was just an hour ago, right?
Like 3 hours ago.
So was it
yesterday?
yesterday?
No, the GA. I'm sorry, I thought you meant the UTC.
Yeah, it was just an hour ago that this was put through. Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways it's I think I think that if I realized this, I might have gone and done it because I like God oil. But that being the case, you know, let's take that and put that aside for a moment. Okay, so what? Let's forget that it's God will for a minute. What's the benefit of doing this? The benefit of doing this is that these 48,000 TShares will now disappear, right? They'll be taken out, and that means our total TShare count will drop. Because our total TShare count drops, everybody else's payout goes up, right? In addition to that, a penalty gets paid out to the stakers, which gets split. 50% goes to the OA, 50% to the stakers. So as you can see, the payout went up. And here's another important piece. Whatever penalty was paid to the OA now is subject as well to inflation. So where it
okay.
may not have been before. So there's a whole bunch of things that happen,
Yeah.
as a consequence of this. And then if you take it one step further, yeah, okay. So this is the case for what happens when you do it. If you didn't do it, then we would continually lose, the payout per T-share for the 48,359 T-shares. And the penalty would grow. The penalty would grow because you get more every day in terms of penalty. And so if that had happened, God will would have been penalized more. What I was trying to do, because I was trying to figure out why this happened, I think I saw this the other day and maybe I didn't follow up on it. I was trying to figure out why I wasn't seeing that stake in my list for some reason, and I don't know why. I don't know if there's something special about it that I didn't see it in the list.
I have a question. Since his stake ended and someone else good accounted, did he just lose all of that hedron?
No, it's good accounted. It's good accounted. Now here's an interesting little thing, right? Again, dummy, I didn't really pay attention to this. I'm aware of COM, right? We may have gone into the area where if you were using COM, you could go ahead and do the GA and have collected the payout for that. There's a bonus for doing somebody else's GA. I'd have to refresh myself, right? So might be
You
the
get
guy.
pretty much all of it, right?
I gotta go look. I don't remember. So that could have been it. But very nice, huh? All right. Well, hey, listen, can't win them all.
Well, we appreciate the donation, Mr. Godwell. Thank you very much, and I hope you're all right. I hope you're, there's a reason behind your madness of not ending your stake for 33 days.
Yeah, it might be something that was done purposely, right?
That was my guess. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I think business people over on the right side of the room will shake their head no at this, right? But the rest of us weirdos, and not that there's anything wrong with being one of the weirdos, think about weird things like that. Like, well, what if I did have millions? Why wouldn't I give them away? Why wouldn't I act like Ski Cat? Why wouldn't I do? I mean, maybe from a business perspective, not the right way to go about things, but from a people perspective, I think a lot of people entertain giving back to the community.
I wonder what the daily payout will be starting that tomorrow. Because right now it's kind of starting at like 6.24. So I'm just wondering if it's how much it'll be raised up.
Well, you could look at that real quick. You want me to do the math for you?
Yeah.
One thing I would love if we could check. I don't have the address in front of me, although I was tracking it before. Could we see on Etherscan if the Godwell has done any transactions themselves in the past month? because that would give us a clue as to whether this was something that they meant as a gift to the community, or if it was more a situation where they're kind of missing in action.
Yeah, I'd be reluctant to conclude anything
Okay.
by, not seeing it, but the last transaction was 12:30 on 66D.
And that's when they did this big
No,
stake.
no. There's some other stuff coming in, but nothing out. So yeah, 12:30.
Yeah. And that's when they didn't they like restake 1 billion HEX for 15 years or something crazy? Or was it only until PulseChain started, or
2.1 billion. But this is the
for
one.
90 days?
Yeah, but this is the one that's supposed to be ending today. So I guess we're going to find out, right?
Yes.
Because
Whoa.
well,
So that's like a giant stake that is supposed to end today, and then
yeah,
people have been saying that it might get restaked, or it might get like sold on the market, even though the account doesn't have a history of that. But then another possibility is that it could bleed out, or it could get good accounted by somebody.
Yep, all the above.
Fascinating. One question somebody had, I think that would be great to answer. Did this benefit us or not?
I think that, who asked that question? Is that
Crypto Surfer 369?
All right, Surfer 369, Crypto Surfer 369. Jury's out. I think in the short term, yeah, it's a marshmallow test. The marshmallow test is, can you delay gratification to get more later? Potentially, you could have gotten more later, but that's I don't know. That's kind of a crude way to look at things. I tend to think myself, I would really, this will sound bad, unless the guy is going to do something specific or indicate something so specific that he was trying to do. I would fall in favor of supporting all hexagons, right? Including Godwill. Yes, I know he's got umpteen, whatever's. Pick the token coin. Maybe he doesn't need it.
Still his money though.
But he's yeah. I mean, so I think, to me, that overwrites that. But you didn't ask really what I thought. So yes, I think it benefits us because we get them out of the pool sooner, and we get a higher payout, and we give up we give up potentially taking more penalty later. That's really the trade-off, right?
And I would have good accounted the Godwill if I had more evidence that it was just a forgetting situation. As evidenced by, I good accounted the Pulse longevity whale when I realized that they had donated $100,000 to Aubrey de Grey's legal defense, and then I realized that they had a hex stake that had been bleeding out for a year. I good accounted at least one of those and made sure that they were all done correctly. And so it's like it's interesting in game theory and psychology just to understand like even what the pros and cons are to the individual, and then to the community, and then in the system, and how it plays out with delayed gratification.
Right. Well, yeah, and so we can say all this stuff too, and it don't matter anyways, right? Because here's the thing. What I mean is, we can kind of envision what if we did what we did, or instead of somebody else. But end of the day, right? You didn't do the transaction. It's not your stake, so you weren't in control of it. Somebody else did it. So we're going to deal with whatever the game rules say, right? I mean,
so like the pro of doing it is now we will probably have a higher daily payout, but the con is, now we're not getting all of the bleed out that's accumulating every day.
Yeah, there's some argument for that part, Bruce, right, about locking this stuff up. Yes, partially, maybe we're worried that people are going to come back and dump on our heads later. But this stuff's also going to now be locked, right? And so if it's locked into the wallet and they never come back, that's the other side of it. It essentially becomes Satoshi gold, right?
Also, the bleed outs eat up inflation, so it lowers the inflation. Sorry,
That's
people.
that's another interesting point. You guys are crushing it with the interpretation here.
So let me, I'm grabbing right now for Briz the number of what our payout was. So this won't be exact, right? Because I don't know, right? But the payout for the day was 66 million today. Is that correct? Sounds about right. And so what do we got going on? So we've got the new number of TShares is just 10 million. So we may be, wow, that's a lot, isn't it?
Wow.
Might be well over that. Let's see. With the 48,000 gone, we might see, there's other people doing stuff all day long, man. We got 500 stakes a day moving around. We might see, 645 tomorrow at the gate. After everything clears, we may baseline to something like that. Really depends.
Thank you so much to Hex Live, who did a $5 super chat. Love the game theory. Hey, thanks. Shout out to Kincaid Honey and everybody, all the other familiar faces here, of which there are many in the chat.
It's fun to talk about. It's fun to talk about game theory when it's not your money. It's real fun.
It's part of the ecosystem here. So it's like, so here's the TShare.app front end showing the God Whales account. And the way that we do that is we connect. You don't have to connect to your primary wallet, but it will make you connect. You can't just not use MetaMask when you're using TShare app. But if you type in go.tshare.app and then /? account equals, then you can put in the address of the God Whale that ends in 666D. I'll throw this in the chat here. And if you're watching on the replay, you can open up the live chat. You should be able to see it. But we can see on the screen here that the USD value of the active stakes, $384 million. And this individual has 523 P shares, peta shares, not Terra shares. And here's the stake. We can open this panel, the stake that is done as of today. Now, this won't bleed out for another 14 days, but this is the one that is for $36 million worth of HEX. The amount of HEX here is 268 million. Sorry, the principal was 300 million. Is this the one? This is the one that was good accounted.
One that got in.
This is the one that was good accounted. They got the penalty of 19 million. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And it started on day 139. And so, so that's the one we can see. And then does this show? Okay. And then it's this next panel here that's showing us the 93 P shares.
So this one ended yesterday.
Okay, yeah, this one ended yesterday. You can see the green bar shows that the progress is 100%. And so this is the one that'll start bleeding out in 14 days if nobody good accounts it. And the amount, the dollar value of the amount of HEX in this one stake is $100 million. So that is what almost a third of the God Whales stack is in this stake that just ended.
What a pleb.
I wouldn't say that. The God Whale seems to be a really good actor. The God Whale donated to the Highest of Stakes documentary. I think a significant amount of money, maybe like $1 million or something. $500,000, something crazy.
How late was this stake that was just ended? Do you know?
Somebody said 33 days.
So
let's see what it says here on. It was supposed to end on 113. So
So it looks like it's 31 days behind.
okay, 31
Yeah.
days.
Hey, so to make sure to clarify with this, right? So because I mentioned it, they did not use the Communis protocol to do it, and it would not have qualified anyways. But yes, it would.
I
It
thought
would
it would
be.
because it's over 6 months.
No, it's 37 days late. So the GA now the Godwill can still come back and get the com, right?
Okay.
But the GA, I think this is how it works. The GA would have had to have been after 37 days or something, and then the people could have done that. I actually like this a little bit better, you know. But bounty is a bounty, right? Yeah.
Oh,
So I thought I'd mention that.
that's some new game theory then. That people would have been able to collect a bounty in communists if this had continued bleeding for another 10 days or so.
Yeah, I won't keep this to myself. I have a list of 100%, burned, well, not burned, but 100% expired stakes, right? It's on the website. So I have done the math, and unfortunately, right at the moment with the current market prices, there's no incentive to do it. Very little incentive, unless you just want to pick up tokens for free. But in the future, with different price structures, if communist is at a very high price and we're on Pulse, it may be worthwhile to use the protocol to go GA, good account stakes, and then collect the communists because they'll pay the gas cost or more.
Fascinating.
In my mind, I have a hard time believing that these wallets with 300 million hex in it is not Richard's. You know what I mean? I'm like, there has to be the OA oil. I don't know.
Let me.
I hear you,
Go
but
ahead.
I also know 2 or 3 people. I'm not one of them, by the way. I keep getting that accusation, but I know 2 or 3 people that I believe are in that situation that are not Richard.
Okay.
And then
But
I think
I hear you.
another bit of evidence is that I don't think Richard would donate to his own documentary because that would be a conflict of interest. So I think that I mean, somebody could argue that he would, but I think he's been so careful to not do things that seem unethical that he doesn't. I also haven't seen him like lie. And he said that he didn't contribute to the documentary, and the Godwill did. Also, Richard apparently didn't seem to be supporting Ethereum whenever you could buy it for 35 cents, but the
True.
Godwill's account did, according to the chat here, buy ETH at 35 cents. And then somebody also mentioned that this is the Godwill's second biggest wallet. So this is not the biggest wallet for the Godwill. It'd be curious to see if the other wallet has had any activity.
It has not. Well, the one I'm aware of, C5, I looked at that
Okay.
one. There's no activity. I don't know. Do you have that number, Maddie? I can send it to you. You want to throw it on
Sure.
the screen? Yeah. But yeah. Oh, so exciting, guys. I mean, how much more fun can we have? I mean, this was like,
man, dude, a freaking 19 million hex penalty on a game theory show. Come on.
I know, Bruce. We have to like off screen in the green room, just be all excited and happy about this, Well, with a lot of the people here already know this is true. Some of them don't, though. The newer people don't know because we went into the staking. It makes a huge difference. I mean, it's not. I guess if somebody has never been in a situation where they had their own business and they did something with their own hands, like because you had expertise, you did something today, and somebody paid you in cash, that's the experience that I get right from it because I went and did those stakes, and based on my actions, I get paid, in hex, and and I said this to somebody else. Maybe I said to you last week, Maddie.
You're the middleman.
It's at the point now with the hex that you come in, and we're not. I'm not a shark or anything or a whale, but I mean it's at the point now. It's more than I would be comfortable buying.
Yes.
On a daily basis. I mean, it's more than I and it's certainly a hell of a lot more than I bought, because I at the time. Anyways, I digress. I do get excited about this one.
Yeah.
All right, so I sent over that to you in the private chat. That address.
Yes, thank you. I got that address. I'm gonna share it here with people. Okay, yeah, this address has $10 million worth of ETH in it that somebody said is the number one address for the Godwell. Now, which wallet that people are attributing to the Godwell are people saying bought PLSD? Because I heard that rumor, but I didn't verify it on chain.
I don't know. I haven't verified it either.
What was the rumor?
The rumor was that the Godwell bought Pulse Dogecoin, and Abit is talking about it here in the chat. That that would be another good piece of evidence that Richard is not the Godwell, because Richard would not buy PLSD. But
I could see that.
Who knows?
I could also see him buying it to hurt it later on, because it's kind of like, how do you crush something? Well, you have to get a piece of it first.
There's game theory there, Brisology.
But he should have gotten a ton of free Pulse Dogecoin with all his wallets.
I don't think I ever heard, and so this is highly speculative, but I mean, we know that there are 12 OA addresses that stake. Those would be the only ones eligible for Pulse Dogecoin, and even if they got the highest amount, they would only be getting several hundred from the airdrop, even if they claimed, but they would have had to claim. So that's one thing that was interesting about that airdrop. I'm just loading this other wallet so that people can see what it looks like in go.tshare.app to see the Godwell, the other wallet of the Godwell. Play some elevator music while we're here. Yeah, the price of HEX is up close to 5 cents again, which is pretty exciting.
I found, just as a history, there was another time in 2020 that Godwell paid a penalty.
Godwell is a little sloppy with his end stakes.
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating. So there's a precedent for this.
Yeah, he was supposed to end on the 19th of February in 21 and did not end until the 7th of March, right? So that's 8, 9, something like 16 days late, just enough to pay a little bit of penalty.
This other address that people are saying is associated with the Godwell and that ends in 39C5 is not bigger than the other wallet. It has 300 P shares in it, with a USD value of the HEX coming in at just under $180 million. Still nothing to sneeze at. And it's got 4 stakes within it, the earliest one coming out in 2031. So there you go. Wow, we really broke down. We really did a dissection of all this. If
4 active stakes.
Yeah.
And the next one not coming out for almost 8 years. Not bad.
And then the last transaction that was on this account sent out 500 ETH on 12/28. So in that same time frame.
Again, you know, other than Richard, who would send out $154 million for 15 years? That's so crazy.
Somebody who bought Ethereum at 35 cents.
True. Someone that doesn't need $154 million today. That's who did it.
Yeah, I think you're right, guys. Right? I mean, I think about that sometimes too. Right?
I
Like,
mean, I don't
why
know.
would you
I'm
do
just...
that? Well, yeah. So
I just want to say, God will. Thank
I
you.
don't know if other people did the same thing that I did, but I think it's helped me in the long run. When I made my stakes, I built a bridge. Yes, we talk about that. And my argument for going out 15 years was to strengthen the system, because I may not be around in 15 years. And so if I wanted the system as a whole run, then I wanted to contribute to all levels. You know, it doesn't have to be every day, you know, but you know, my 3 levels of the staking ladder: short, medium, and long term. And so from that perspective, I feel just like maybe just like the God will. Like, if I, you know, what would I do if what am I going to do when we hit $30 a hex? I'm not going to cash it all out. What would I do? I'd build the hell of a ladder, man. I'd cash some of it out, but I go build a ladder.
Yeah, my ladder, I made sure every 6 months I put a big chunk of hex. I mean, like, it was a really big chunk. And so even if I were to get little baby lettuce hands and start selling off my hex because I just couldn't resist whatever price point it was, I made sure that I had a certain amount of hex coming due to me every year, every 6 months, that, you know, if hex ever goes to, a couple dollars, I'll be very happy that I had those stakes built.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so, like, honestly, the staking ladder is so important. And in hex, it's like, I don't think it can be overstated how important, like, everyone should have a staking ladder, even if it's just like, once a year. It's like, okay. And then once you get that built out, maybe you start filling in the gaps in between every 6 months. Once those are all filled out, maybe once every 3 months or 4 months.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what Cryptic Life was asking. Yeah, so this is a good GP thing that Maddie brings up about fully explaining stuff, because we just slide into a topic, right, and start talking about it. If you have a ladder like Briz was talking about, you already know that you're going to have hex coming out at certain periods of time, and in which case you likely will hit points where you'll have hex available, where you don't have to merge the end stake. That being said, at $30 hex, I think you'd see a lot of emergency end stakes, right? So you go to I did this today because I was listening. Who was I listening to? I was listening to Chaos and RG3 talk, and so I had to go look, right? And so let's say I have a million hex that'll come out if I emergency end stake all my stakes right now, and it's worth $1.
$2 million.
I mean, am I going to do it? I don't know. I mean, that wouldn't be my plan. I have a different type of plan. Okay, so $1 million doesn't do it. Well, what if it's 30 million? I mean, because it's $30 a million hex. Dude, I can tell you every financial planner I know what they would tell me to do. They say, did you push the button yet? Right.
But Crispy, GRC is pulling his hair out right now, and he's probably screaming at the screen, but there's not 30 million in the pools.
You're right.
You'll never be able to pull out 30 million all at once.
Today, that's very true. That's very true. And that's another aspect of this whole thing, right?
That's a fair point.
Yeah, no, it's
He's not
true.
pulling out his hair.
Yeah. Oh, hopefully he's not going bald.
He's pulling out his mustache.
But
You can't pull out 30 million.
but I think if some other things would have to happen at the same time for us to get to $30 hex, which would likely mean we're probably in a different liquidity position. But you're right.
If Hex got up to $30 each, the liquidity pools would not be what they are today.
Well, ChrispyMan was describing this on his stream earlier today, I think, is where I heard it. And I guess you're saying maybe it was also considered in Johnny's stream, but this idea that, and here's another teaching point about PulseChain that not everybody knows is there is this question of if you're in a liquidity pool, does it copy over onto PulseChain? And I think that's debatable to some extent. We may know kind of an answer to that, but whether that's true or not, I think some people are saying if it's an ETH pair, then it does get harvested by the fixer bot. I think there could be an argument because a liquidity position is itself an NFT that it actually might get trapped and not copy over correctly. So I'd love to hear if you guys have an opinion on how that would work. But then we can also consider like ChrispyMan's point that if everybody does remove all their liquidity around the time when the fork is supposed to happen, you could find yourself in a situation where the liquidity is so low that the price is bouncing around all the way in between like, a fraction of a penny and multiple dollars.
Yeah. And, so I speak from a position of ignorance of not knowing enough about how everything might work and what people are going to do. But it seems to me that it was, the message I got was if I was a liquidity provider, I better pull my liquidity before the snapshot, or whatever, I shouldn't call it a snapshot, but the point of the fork, before the point of the fork, because then I would have the ability to deploy that differently on the other side, right? That was, at least that's all my impression. And then if I was that liquidity provider, then I'd probably put it right back, after I knew that we were good on the east side. If that was my plan, I don't know, again, what they would do. And so that would tend to make me believe there could be some high volatility, there being lots of liquidity changes. And it would happen at the same point that other people might be FOMOing into HEX, right? Because if you're FOMOing into HEX because you didn't pull the trigger and nobody told you they were going to drop the liquidity and the liquidity disappears and you push the price up against yourself, that's what we're talking about.
I also want your interpretation on this because I missed this tweet that was a subtweet of what came out. This was a little bit less than a week ago where Richard had made the tweet about bug slaying, about the headers not lining up. And so they had to basically stop syncing the chain. And he said that this related to PulseChain, not mainnet ETH. And then he's saying it's snapshotted all the way up to the breaking block. So once fixed, all the days of previous sync process is maintained. I think this sync is not for the snapshot, even though that's what's being called here, because I think
I think it's reuse of the terminology in a different context.
A different context.
Yeah. So the way I read it, I'll just tell you this. I read it as this: for me to be able to get all the data from the blockchain, I got to get the first block. I got to get the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. Technically, those are snapshots, right?
From the Ethereum Genesis block.
Yeah, from wherever I'm getting it, whatever blockchain. So I took this to be, wherever they stop, they don't have to start at zero. What I have no idea. It's likely some sort of an error with data or handling or something. And now they've got to fix something. But once they fix it, you can add. That's what I took. So I didn't take this to have anything to do with what the snapshot will look like in terms of a pulse, other than this is going to be part of it. Like I didn't take it as this is the snapshot.
And I think it's debatable whether we'll get a more clear heads up versus a less clear heads up from Richard about when the snapshot will occur, about when PulseChain will launch. What are your guys' opinions on that?
Well, you mean when will the snapshot occur?
Are we going to know a week ahead of time? Which would then,
yeah, that's what Furu kept asking me about 3 different ways today.
okay.
Like, what do you think? Go ahead, Briz, because I don't have a good answer.
Richard has always said 2 weeks is a good enough notice for anything. He used to say that when he launched Hex, he said he was going to give a 2-week notice, because if you can give your job a 2-week notice, then if that's good enough to quit a job, it should be good enough notice for the snapshot. So I still think he's gonna give like a 2-week notice. I think he's gonna do everything, and then he's just gonna be like, hey guys, 2 more weeks, and it really will be 2 more weeks. Is anyone going to believe him when he says that? Probably not, but it's probably gonna get everyone excited, and everyone's gonna be like, yeah, right, and everyone's gonna be like, no, it's for real this time, and everyone's gonna be like, yeah, right.
Briz,
And then it's gonna
reals.
happen,
For
and everyone's
reals.
gonna lose their
2 weeks
flipping
for
mind.
reals. For reals, Briz. Yeah, I hear you. I hear that too. I think that you're right. I don't think the question that came up earlier today was about stealth launching. And I don't know what exactly the definition might be for stealth launching, but no fanfare.
It's almost good that we won't believe him when he says 2
yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
I mean, I'll take the opposite side of the argument just for education purposes. I think that there would be some game theoretical advantages to giving less of a heads up or giving a more covert heads up, or that sort of thing. It just depends how much you want traders to come in and wreck themselves, I guess. And that's, look, we can look at other major airdrops, right? We saw some in particular that had a really high value. Let's say, I don't know, the 1-inch one, or these different ones. The teams denied that they were going to do an airdrop over and over and over again because they didn't want people to qualify for it by basically airdrop farming and like tricking their systems. And then other airdrop systems, they changed the rules at the last minute. Now, I'm not saying that this is the most likely thing to happen. I'm just saying it's in the game, it's in the cards, that it's possible for something about an airdrop to change, or for something to happen suddenly with an airdrop, so that people don't game it. I think gaming this airdrop, I mean, it could also be seen as, not influencing the market, because the market is going to do what the market's going to do. And if you don't have the market operating freely, then it's just going to lead to that, maybe that much more volatility on PulseChain once it launches, if it's quote unquote stealth launch. So I could see it happening either way. I don't know that it changes my strategy at all. I think that a lot of us here have liquid hex that we've been holding and accumulating through the bear market. I think a lot of us, like if we saw $1 hex, a lot of us have been looking forward to selling some hex at that price, like for years. And I also think that if you had a situation where all the people who wanted to sell $1 hex sold all their hex, then you could see even wilder price volatility than that. You could see hex wicking up to multiple dollars once all those short-term liquid hex players get eaten up. So good to see you there, Hexiest Man in the world.
What's up, Hexiest Man? you know, I would initially think a stealth launch or hey, we're launching tomorrow, like would be pretty good. Initially in my mind, like, you know, that's probably what's best. Um, but when Richard did the big payday, everyone was like, "Oh, I'm gonna game that," me included. I was like, I had stuff. I sent in all my Litecoin and I turned it into Hex and I staked it to the day afterwards. I'm like, haha, I'm gonna freaking get 300% more. And but guess what? Richard had a trick up his sleeve. And those people that thought they were going to game the system,
Did not. Yeah.
it didn't it worked out for them. They got 33% more coins, but it didn't work out the way they thought it was going to work out because Richard had a trick up his sleeve. So I think there might be a trick up Richard's sleeve that no one knows that he's going to pull.
I like your wild speculation. We don't know for sure that it was Richard that was controlling the OA, and but I would definitely agree with you that it was unexpected. There were very few people in the community predicting that that the OA would stake for the big payday,
99%
and
of everything.
that that would have significantly changed the bonuses that people got as a part of the "We Are All Satoshi" bonus, which basically said that all of the Bitcoiners who didn't claim their free Hex tokens, that those would be distributed amongst the stakers in Hex on that particular day of the big paydays. Is that correct?
Dude, I was counting my chickens way before they hatched.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, oh my God, I'm going to have that much Hex. And then nope,
Yeah.
nope.com/me.
That's true. Yeah, I think, and I don't know about surprises, but I agree with you, Maddie. Right, and Briz, that could be a surprise. I do think that there needs to be some warning, otherwise there'll be there potentially be some flack over,
Some
you know.
saltiness, right?
Yeah, well, because if there's no warning, then only those people who knew it was going to start would get in on some things right in the beginning and be ready, right? And that would
That's a good
seem
point.
to not be a fair launch.
That's a good point. I like
But what does that mean? I don't know. So 2 weeks is about good as anything else. 2
And
weeks
then
notice.
people could also be like, oh, well, Richard told people it was going to launch and only like a handful of people knew about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they gamed it. And that's why it's not fair. And that's why it's a scam. Blah, 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 blah.
But you remember when Hex launched? That was a stream event, you know? And I knew. I knew as soon as everybody else knew. Came right out and said, it's not faking it this time, guys. It's happening.
Yeah.
So I hope that's how it goes down.
I wonder if he'll stream with Tone Vase and 2 or 3 lawyers this time on launch day.
Well, lots of good jokes behind that one. That's for sure.
Debate as big as haters.
Oh man, those people they hurt themselves. They could have done so well just by participating.
Yes.
Should Richard do a launch stream with Jack?
Yeah, that's a good idea. That would have been the first thing I thought of.
Outrage marketing.
Dude, there's so much bad information coming out now and so many marked up things. I just ignore everything because I don't know what somebody really said or what they didn't say, and the cesspool just gets deeper. So,
well, I think Jack keeps saying things that he knows are not true just to get a outrage from people, and so I don't think it's working that strongly on me that we have to break down all the false things that he said, but it's it's just as soon as we recognize that that's the pattern, then it'll become less interesting probably. I saw a meme of somebody made of Trevon being like the the boy in Toy Story who's like dropping his Andy doll, and the Andy doll has Jack's face on it.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
So I think, hey, somebody had a question about staking. I can't find it
Okay.
in here.
So, guys, is staking going to become illegal?
I think if it's non-centralized custodian, then if you're holding your own keys, I think you're good for now.
Yeah, I think you were saying before, Briz, about some of the actions being taken might have a motive. Think of it this way. What's the whole purpose for the normies to get into this? If it's not, and meaning the financial normies, not people, if it's not to create some sort of instruments that allow them to do what they want to do, there's no mechanism for them just to explode off of speculation. So there's going to have to be something like staking, whatever you want to call it, to emulate the banking system. We just got there first. So I don't know. I mean, otherwise, what the hell's? It's just one big poker game, or not poker game, just one big dice game. Is that what's going on? So anyways, I don't think it's going. I don't think that they ever intended like staking to be illegal. Again, like you said in the beginning, I think it's about to protect. It's about their impression is that they can protect people by making staking illegal on the exchanges. But long answer, I know.
Why does it seem like, I don't know, I don't want to get too divisive here, but why does it seem like the Republicans are kind of like the pro-crypto party, and it kind of seems like the Democrats are kind of like the anti-crypto party? Is anyone else getting that kind of feeling? Except for like people like Ted Cruz
maybe in
defending it,
general.
other people like Elizabeth Warren, really kind of going after it. You're muted, Maddie.
Oh, usually I like to steer the show away from like particular partisan politics, but if it's more like bipartisan or like crypto support, then that's something I think is worth focusing on.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just trying to I'm just looking at the legislation kind of going and seeing who's doing the rally for trying to shut everything down, and I don't know, I'm trying to piece it all together myself.
Yeah. So what's going on here? We got tons of news that's broken today. We know that that the class action lawsuit against CoinMarketCap got dropped, and we know the circumstances about that. If you rewind in the episode, that was breaking news. We got breaking news just of how the SEC is treating stablecoins this week, and we also found out that the God whale was letting a stake bleed out 1 million hex per day for a month, and then looking to hex, good accounted it today. So that's pretty incredible turn of events.
Thank you, Gerardo.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing how high the daily payout starts off tomorrow.
You must be staked.
I'm 100% staked. Captain Diamond Hands.
100%. You're 100% staked.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm like 97.5 or 98% staked.
I have some short stakes going through, so I got access to the funds fairly regularly, but they're all currently staked.
I wish I would have done that. Well, I have some Deci, which is like, Deci is such a trap that I love, because with Maximus Decimus, which is like a tokenized 10-year stake, like you have to worry about the liquidity. And so the liquidity is so low at this point, and it's actually trading at like a giant discount. So like I'm down on my Deci if I had just held on to my Hex. But the fact is, then because it's at a discount, it's incentivizing me to hold on to it until it's either at a premium, or I'll just hold on to it until the end of the 10 years. And I tricked myself into holding longer than I wanted to, because I do not want to put myself in a situation where I'm selling my Deci at a huge discount, higher, like more so than when I bought it. So when I bought it, let's say it was at parity, or it was at 15%. Now it's at a 20 or 25% discount. Crazy.
I was looking at the HSI stakes, and I really haven't ever given those that much attention, just because I was kind of like, I don't know, I'm just not really into the whole derivatives of the Hex NFT type stuff. Just kind of, I don't know. But I was looking at the stakes, or the HSI stakes auctions, and like you can get a really good discount. Like it was something like you could get like $200 or $250 worth of Hex for about $9 worth of
What?
Hedron. So it's like it was a 555 stake, so you have to hold it, for a long time. But like a lot of them were at massive discounts, and I was like, that's actually pretty cool. Like there was like a $50 worth of a Hex stake that you could get for like $9, I think. I was like, hey, you know what?
I think Daraj's comment that there's a diamond hands contract to stake Deci, I think that only applies during the restaking period. And so I don't think you can come along and do the diamond hands at any time. I think you had to do it in a window, and now that window doesn't exist anymore. With Time Pays Me, I am really keen on trying to make it compatible so that I can have the best of both worlds for myself, and have a time locking where I can drip the Deci to myself. I'm not missing out on any Hex yield. That way I'm rewarding myself constantly. It's almost like having a weekly continuous staking ladder without all the gas fees. And then I'm saving the gas fees in the long term. And then the only thing I have to worry about is I have to worry about the liquidity in Deci being so low that, like, let's say the price of Hex goes to $1 per token someday. Who knows how much liquidity would be available in Deci? It might be plenty. It might be that there's a premium on the token at that point, or it might be that there's still a discount, that there's a deeper discount, or that the liquidity is so low that I can't really sell. And so it's a very interesting case of Hex that is accruing value every day as if it were staked for 10 years, but it's got these other parameters on it that actually make it a deeper dive than I thought it would be in terms of how that'll play out. Okay, so we have somebody in the chat who did use the diamond hand stake, and looks like Daraj also agreed that there was something. But so basically, my strategy to like get the best of both worlds of what I want to do, which isn't going to be right for everybody. But for me, I ended up doing like half my stack in Deci of liquid and half my liquid stack in Hex, so that then I could be balanced out. And if that half of the Deci I have to hold it all the way through for 10 years, then that'll be just fine, because I didn't put all my Hex into it. If let's say, because right now Hex is trading at 5 cents, Deci is trading at 4, compared to the underlying net asset value closer to 5 cents. So there you go. But routing manually from Hex to ETH, I don't think would fix the problem of low liquidity, because the automated market maker and the market DEX aggregator software should be doing that ideally anyway. Like when you use KyberSwap on ETHW, you can is it on ETHW? Yeah, on ETHW. And I haven't checked to see if that still works or not, but you can actually see the routing change in real time based on it calculating in different liquidity pools. And so
I remember when I used it, had all the.
But maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. Because then again, there have been times where I swapped into one token and I paid less gas fees because it had to route through fewer tokens. So
so have you been keeping up with the Coast OX Coast with his stablecoin stuff?
Oh, I was hoping nobody would ask me about that. I don't like it because I don't see anything official, and I didn't want to be that guy to have to say that. But like, if you're getting tons of regulatory approval, like I like those guys. I think that their idea is interesting, but
you want to see more paperwork.
Yeah, I want paperwork, and like, and I also need to learn more about how it's even different than how we onboard already. Because basically at first the idea seemed like pretty cool to me. Like, oh, you can just have the money in your bank account be a stable coin itself, and then you can trade in and out. But then now I'm like, well, how's that different than how I use Coinbase? So yeah, I just like they keep announcing more and more countries that they got approval in, but it would be really cool to me to see them show proof of that approval, because what we learn in crypto is you verify, don't just trust.
Trust but verify.
Yeah. Now I happen to have talked with the guys it's more than a couple times, so
Okay.
I have a different feel,
yeah, please.
But I don't have any more detail for you.
Okay.
I just know that my feeling is different, but at the same time, and I think these guys would tell you the same thing, that you're exactly right, Matty. Till you see the receipts.
Do they show their faces either?
No.
I don't know.
I don't
So
think
Funding Jim has a kind of a guideline that like if you don't show your face, like you shouldn't be trusted, and that's what he says. Yeah.
I can understand why you say that. It's certainly, let's just put it this way, it's certainly a different level of doxing to show your face.
Okay, well, but if you're getting regulatory approval, then you'd have to dox the shit out of your identity anyway. So why wouldn't you at least show your face to the community? That's where it doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm sure those guys are either listening or somebody who knows them who's listening. They'll give them some feedback.
Yeah, and I'll correct myself if we get more information. Not trying to start a war. Brisology brought it up. Not my fault.
Show your face, Buck from Fiat. Show it.
Oh yeah, that's another one.
You mean FUT?
Son of a bitch. Just kidding.
We got a super chat for 1,000 yen from Charles Stark. Thanks for the super chat. Question: Hi from Japan. After listening to Johnny Chaos and how HEX will go if PLS goes, is there any case at all to pick up PLS or PLSX using HEX copies in a ratio trade that first 48 hours? What a great question.
Yep.
I
Risky
think that
move.
Yeah, what do you guys think?
I think that this is what I think. If I see that ratio, and this is what I think could happen. I think that Pulse on ratio goes high, PulseX and HEX go low. Meaning for every Pulse, I can get more HEX and more PulseX. And the reason I believe that is because of how the timing went about it. Now, I may be perfectly wrong, so I'm good with it either way. But I think the timing of everything is you just end up with a whole bunch of people who have HEX that want Pulse. So pretty much exactly what he's saying is use that to get other things. But I think there's going to be volatility. And if I see good ratios, I'm going the other way. I'm going Pulse to HEX.
Yeah, I kind of I initially thought after the Pulse chain launches, we could see a huge dip in Hex on the Ethereum chain, and that economic weight could move into PulseX and PulseChain coin. But the more I kind of think about it, I'm like, I kind of think like doing that move might be a pretty bad move. I just kind of feel like if everyone does that, I feel like for some reason you're gonna see like a $3-4 hex, and everyone just kind of dump their hex. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like one of those things where if the whole crowd is moving in one direction, you might want to be the one guy going in the other direction. And so I don't know. I don't know. It's just kind of like I'm torn, I guess.
I think like this may not be what the question is asking, but like I think that your copy of Hex on the Pulse chain side would be the mechanism that you would use to trade for Pulse chain and Pulse X primarily. I think that
Yeah.
that the whole fact of like not having a value means that the bridge is closed down. And so it would only be after that first 48 hours, I would imagine, is when you would see basically now you can bridge like wrapped Ethereum, now you can bridge wrapped EHEX onto Pulse chain, and we're certainly going to have to get all of our nomenclature right to even understand which coins we're talking about once we start taking, wrapping EHEX and putting it on the Pulse chain, wrapping PHEX and putting it on the Ethereum chain and all that weird, good kind of stuff. But in terms of like, is it your Hex copy that's going to be the thing that's available for you to ratio trade? Probably a yes, because it's already there on the native chain of Pulse chain where Pulse and PulseX are starting, and because bridging in value would be giving something value, like bridging and other coins would be giving it value. So because Pulse and PulseX start at 0, and Pulse Hex starts at 0, those would be the ones that would be eligible for ratio trading, I would imagine.
I think I'm personally just gonna just let the dust settle first before I even try anything. I'm not gonna start ratio trading and setting limit orders and getting wrecked because I made the wrong gamble.
We already see on testnet that that there are people there who might be trying to send signals based on the price on the testnet, based on the ratios on the testnet. They might be incentivized to send false signals to the people who aren't playing 5D chess. And so
Well, FYI, when I was playing on PulseX, I was just like, I remember I was trying to see how high I could get one of the pairs. So I would just send all of whatever I had into it. I'm all, I want to see how high I can get this thing. I remember being on the phone with my buddy. I'm like, yeah, you do it too. Do it. And and we were just driving the prices crazy in one direction just for the giggles because we knew it was testnet stuff. So keep that in mind. The false signals.
now the number of contentious topics, it's not going to slow down here. So people who are 2 hours and 20 minutes into the stream, don't worry. The 223 people watching live and thousands on the replay, this is a banger episode. And now the next topic, it broke up the gang last time. So, we got to do our best to make sure we can all, suffer through this next one. But it's the question of, will there be parity between Hex on Pulse Chain and Ethereum? And look, I don't know anymore because because Johnny Chaos had made some good arguments here in this past week for parity. I have made pretty good arguments in the past against parity. And so, first of all, I should say, like, we can all be friends after we discuss this.
That's it. I'm
No, we
out.
can't.
I'm out.
We all have to agree.
That's it.
Um,
I don't agree with you, Bruce. I'm out.
You're off the island.
Hey, Maddie, I don't think it's, I don't know. Yeah, I know. I've listened to all those sessions too. What I'd say is this. I'd start with, is it a possibility? And
okay. I like that.
I think it is
That's
a
sensible.
possibility, right? But it requires some people to do some things that I don't know and that I don't control.
Okay.
And so the way Johnny laid it out, yeah, it's very possible that if somebody with enough firepower on all chains links these things together, they ain't going to move. And he went as far as to say not only could you get hex to EHEX or EHEX to hex so tight that they're basically the same price, parity, that you could also potentially limit the slippage of the ratios between pulse and hex. And so that you could have a very rigid relationship. And I think that we have now seen that this is possible. I mean, technically it's possible, but will an entity do that? Will people do it? That's where, you maybe you can get an argument about, is it good, is it bad, and why would they do that?
Yeah, I would say if the market was just completely, the free market, and just like you just kind of let the let everything land where it lands, then I would say there would not be a price parity of the two different hexes. But I just think the OA is going to make it paired. I think the OA is going to be like, I want this to be paired. I'm going to set the trading ratios to where if it goes down, there's just giant buy wall. And maybe if it gets too high, there's a giant sell wall. I don't know. But I think the OA, I think it depends on if the OA wants it to be parity, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you added a nice piece to that, Bruce, because I think if we're talking market, you have too many different ideas from different people about what it would be, and it's wide open, right? It was just left to its own devices. Parity might not come for a long time. Because you're relying on many hundreds or thousands of people to produce the outcome versus 2 or 3 big players just overpowering the system that way. And, I say overpowering the system like that sounds like it's bad, but all it really means is that hex, PHEX or EHEX, hex, pulse and pulse X would all move pretty close in unison, right?
I don't think the OA doesn't want people to point to either chain and have people be like, well, this is the shit chain because look, it's not doing as well as the other chain. I don't think the OA would want that kind of talk to happen.
Well, then what's going on ETHW right now? Because there's a version of Hex over there that has the same code, and it doesn't seem like the OA or Richard or anybody is saying very nice things about it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think.
But you're saying that
should
doesn't
be
count.
ignored. Yeah, I think it should be ignored. It's kind of like a worthless. It was a copycat chain.
I like it. I think that I think somebody in the comments saying that it'll have parity on any fork of Ethereum that exists, I think is I can't really see that, but I could see Hex on ETHW sticking around for the people who want to play that side game. That'll always probably be worth less than the others. But
yeah, I don't think that's a good play. When PulseChain was basically announced or basically half of the supply of Hex is in the sacrifice wallet. Why is half the supply in the sacrifice wallet? Because the total supply is about to get duplicated. And so instead of having a 1.2 trillion supply when it's only supposed to be like 600 billion, the OA, or the sacrifice wallet, they locked up half the supply. So now when it gets duplicated, the total supply is the original supply, 600 billion. And the OA did that for a reason, or whoever controls that sacrifice wallet. And I don't think they want another 600 billion hex on ETH Fair and ETH proof of work. I don't think the OA cares about those.
Well, if they don't want them there, they can't really do anything about that because the code has been forked and it exists. And if they want to not let it bleed out to all the people who are playing the game, then they should be managing those stakes over there, which they're not, which is super interesting. And maybe it doesn't mean that everybody else will lose interest, or that, if the OA is showing differential support on one chain versus another, then we'll be that'll be telling of how people value it. Maybe.
I think
Well,
not. Go ahead.
I when you have a second, I want to inject something about
Please.
about what people are doing over there.
Yeah.
Right. So you I think you know this, but it's worth it to go through this with everybody. You know that that on ETH the TShare rate changes. Why does the TShare rate change? The TShare rate changes because people end stakes.
Yes.
People who end stakes, the new share rate model gets run, or calculation gets run, and it changes it. So it requires people to stake, and it requires people to end stake. These changes have been outlined. Think of it as an outline. There's a structure for these changes going out into the future. When we saw the forks, this structure was in place. The fork occurred, so ETHW is out there. Now, what do you think the share rate is on ETHW right now?
I don't know.
Right. How much? It's about 25. It's about 25 hex less than ETH. How much? What do we see for changes on a daily basis? We see 6, 12, 10. Right. I mean, on the Ethereum side. So how is it that share rate is keeping up? So the evidence would suggest that people are going there and they are unstaking and they are staking. And not only people who are just doing short stakes, but people who have very long stakes are going and maintaining their stakes, because otherwise the share rate would not be able to keep up. It's really 25 is really close. It's like nothing.
So the big players are participating.
Somebody's participating. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Also.
So yeah, I think of it that way. Now, of course, some people are very public about it. You've talked about it. I've talked about it. I go and maintain my stakes. It's actually been fun to go do that because I don't have to worry about gas or anything like that. I just
cheap.
Yeah, I'm maintaining my stakes over there.
So it's likely there's a lot more of us that are doing this. So I don't know. Maybe at some point it actually gets some sort of different traction.
That would be fascinating.
I'm just kind of ending my stakes over there. I'm not really. I remember when I first went over there, I took all my liquid hex and I staked that out for like 5 years. But other than that, I'm just making sure like my stakes aren't bleeding out.
I went the other way. I started rolling into 30 days. And just to see what that looks like, because I don't get to experience that right on the Ethereum side. So I can see. So what is this short staking thing all about? What does that mean?
Yeah.
How does that feel? What do you got to worry about?
We're all having like opposite behavior on either the chains. Like Brisology already now is like on Ethereum doing short stakes.
Yeah, I'm doing the short
liquid
stakes on
bag
Ethereum.
and doing long on ETHW and vice versa. Yeah. Now, okay, with the people who have stuck around this long, don't worry, you're still gonna get rewarded with more alpha. So
more alpha.
To add to the mysteries of the OA, it was reported on Twitter that and I say that like kind of jokingly, but also serious. Like Twitter is getting so good, at least for me, to be able to find verifiable information and stuff you can actually check on the blockchain if you go to the link, and being connected to people who are checking stuff out. Like I trust my ability to synthesize information on Twitter more than like a mainstream crypto news website, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so what we learned is apparently that the origin address had some hedron that it took out of a position that was creating basically like a wall that the price couldn't go higher than, and had about $4 to $6 million worth of hedron that was sitting there in a wallet now, that that did a blockchain transaction that authorized it to be sold on 1inch.
So can you explain it one more time? What
exactly
did it do?
We knew that the origin address like claimed hedron.
Okay.
It did.
And I think we also knew that the origin address like had like kind of like, I'm not sure if you would call it a buy wall or sell wall, but basically it was like if the price of hedron couldn't go higher than this massive amount of liquidity that was placed in like a V3 position. And then we saw that around the time that the Watsa NFTs came out, we heard that Richard was traveling in the States, and we heard that some people were speculating that the OA wouldn't be able to reposition its liquidity during that time. And so there was like a big push by Silver, the antidote for everybody to like try to break the wall. And I think it was broken, and I think the price of hedron ran up temporarily. Now, on the other side of that, then I stopped paying attention for months and months. And what was that? I don't know, 5 months ago or something. And now the latest thing I hear is that, the origin address has removed the hedron that it has for sale. So there are multiple ways to interpret this. Is the OA just like removing V3 liquidity because PulseChain is getting closer? Is it removing, which I'm not saying is the most likely, but that's something that crossed my mind, is the origin address trying to scare the price of hedron down? Is it trying to allow the price of hedron to run? Like, somebody make sense of this,
Has the price of hedron moved much?
Nada. Nope.
It didn't move up with HEX today. HEX went up 10%. It went down 2 or 3 when I looked. So
yeah, it's since close, HEX is up about 1%. Hedron's about 2.4% up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think simplest probably answer is this is we're past the point where HEX is in danger because people are swapping their HEX for Hadron. Right. So it was putting a lot of sell pressure on and was driving the price down. And I think we're past that point. I think the people who needed and wanted to take their position by swapping out of their HEX are probably there, and they have what they need. And so it's just simply reacting to the demand. There's not as much demand, pull it off. It does allow the system to operate on its own now, right? I mean, other people will provide liquidity in whatever they choose to provide. And then probably in my head, a little bit of getting ready for launch in V3. But obviously those positions can be changed so quickly. It doesn't have to be done months in advance, So I just fall, I fall to the simplest, maybe, is it's just time to change it up. Now, I didn't hear about the sale part, and I don't see any evidence of the sale.
No, how you have to have permission to spend on, so I actually went and verified that part. I didn't know if it was associated with the OA, but it's not that much of a stretch to believe like a wallet with $6 million worth of Hedron in it. Like, to me, it wasn't that much of a stretch to say like, oh, that could be OA related. But definitely the person who had that Hedron was had authorized it on Uniswap, or not Uniswap, on 1inch. So it definitely definitely worth like being aware of and debating, or like looking more into yourself if people are interested in that. And maybe somebody has a theory at one point that they want to share.
I'm not sure what to make of it just yet. It's kind of like just it's an interesting action that happened.
I will tell you this: the yield today was pretty yummy over there for those guys. So congrats. We got nice.
Someone said the ICOSA yield was really good today, right?
Very good. Yep.
I haven't really been measuring the ICOSA stuff. Like, I'm not really sure like what a good day of yield is, to tell you the truth.
Well, here's a wild theory that somebody just put in the chat that's fascinating.
Yes,
we can pick this apart. So Joe Carter points out that the billionaire Tate brothers, they were arrested at the end of December. And I just looked up the date that they were arrested, and it looks like it was on December 29th. And then we see apparently that the Godwell address has had no transaction since 12:30. So
if Tate is the Godwell,
it doesn't strike me as being correct, but maybe, right?
That would actually be pretty epic.
Curious. Yeah.
That would be epic.
Now there might be a way that somebody could dig deeper into that theory and like, look to see if the transaction, if the UTC timestamp like is before or after the actual arrest, because you might be able to go back and do a forensic analysis on the announcement of when the arrest was, or I'm pretty sure probably within hours you would know, and then you could see, at least you could rule out if it's not him, because that transaction may have actually processed a few hours before or after he was arrested. But what a brilliant theory there.
A nice observation.
Love it. Anybody know what PulseChain dev is? Kyle. Dev Kyle advised on the game theory of HEX, I believe. He ran the Monte Carlo simulations. Not sure I understand the question though.
People have been asking where he's been. And people haven't heard from him for a while. So
Richard isn't letting them out of the basement until PulseChain launches.
I hope he's okay.
I hope so too. Great guy. Help anybody who asks, and I love him for that. Yeah, without him, I don't think a lot of us would have understood how the hell the system worked.
Totally. Him and Steph really brought TShares home for people.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So Kyle had GitLab activity on the 13th. That was just a day ago. Cool.
Very good.
Well, good stuff. Gosh, we've covered so much stuff today. Is there anything else you guys can think of for now?
We got through all the stablecoin stuff. That was like most of what I saw during the week was just like all this staking and stablecoin stuff and thoughts about Ethereum becoming a security. I wrote that down. Didn't someone say that this might turn Ethereum back into a security?
Well, I was trying to learn from Charles Hoskinson's stream, and I think basically the idea is if you have to pool together to be earning yield, or if you have to send your coins somewhere, it would, part of what would matter to the securities laws is whether you can even be slashed,
staking.
because like then you're counting on the efforts of others to not lose your money, and you're not holding your own key, and you're like, expecting expectation from the work of others, that sort of thing. Now
They got to keep their computers running, right?
Is it really an investment contract? Because remember what we learned earlier in the stream is like that those 4 legs of the Howey test really apply to investment contracts to say whether something is a security. There have been statements by the SEC to say that Ethereum is not a security and shouldn't be thought of one in the future, and then they seem to walk back that wording. So what we see is Ethereum has changed. Ethereum used to be proof of work, now it's proof of stake, and the proof of stake mechanisms themselves, all the details, they're going to matter. And that's why I continue to be so impressed with like how HEX is designed, is that it seems to fit well within the law, and seems to really respect like what the rules are. And when it comes to like Ethereum, I think maybe it wasn't so intentional and like planned out to, and it's changing, right? So HEX sure hasn't changed, right?
Yeah. It seems like Ethereum was kind of flying by the seat of their pants, versus HEX was a lot more thought out, a lot more, care was put into making sure that, Richard can't get his hand caught in the cookie jar. It seems like, I know, I believe, and I know other people believe that like the OA is ran by a blind trust. So like Richard really actually doesn't have control of it, and they have control of it, but they probably take advice. So there's just like, there's a lot of theories out there, that no one can really, nail down without actual confirmation from the mouth of Richard Hart, and he's not going to confirm or deny anything, I guess. And that kind of, I guess, protects us as investors of HEX.
I love it.
True.
I'm going to be really pissed if like we get into a super low liquidity situation and the price of HEX goes from like 1 penny to like $5 and then like down to 1,000th of a cent and stuff. Like I might have to like reconsider my streaming topics if that happens.
Yeah,
just temporarily.
I think there will be buy and sell walls to prevent those extremes.
That would be great. Yeah. But certainly I would expect, as we get closer to PulseChain, I would expect lower liquidity and higher price volatility, and more people wrecking themselves on trading and complaining, and more people figuring it out. I mean, as a community, we keep growing, and so that'll be exciting to see how it all plays out.
I think so too.
Any other final comments from you guys?
No, I think that's it for tonight, man. We hit a
Cool.
lot.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the payout per TShare tomorrow to whoever good accounted that. I guess Gerardo.
I'd like to thank everybody who made this possible.
Yeah. And I guess my final thoughts are, stake long, stake hard.
Stake it till you make it. Come check out my Patreon if you get a chance. I've got the new Hexfire Pro in progress. We're starting to work on that, and so we've got that going on. But otherwise, yeah, check out hexfire.io.
And check out the links for these guys in the description below. Hit the like and subscribe button. Share this out to people who are interested in what the God Whale's been up to and what other kinds of theories we've gone over tonight. So thanks everybody for a great show. Stake wisely, my friends. Happy Valentine's Day. Peace out.
Peace out, guys.